Hey, how's it going everyone? It's Evil of a Monkey here, and today we're going to recap the latest dev stream for the May update and discuss everything in it, and I gotta say, this is a massive update. There's so many exciting things in this update that they talked about. Oh, you know what? We just gotta get straight into the video. I can't even yap here. I'm gonna get you guys straight into there so we can start talking about it. Okay, while there was a lot of cool things announced in this dev stream, the first thing we gotta go over is the new roadmap. Now, this is covering this month and the following 2 months, so May, June, July, and there's a lot of cool information here. So not only are we getting another beta for one of the endgame modes in July, we're also now know what order we're getting all the monthly balances in. So we know in June it's going to be Bunny, and then Blair, which I'm really excited for because he's one of my favorite characters, is going to be in July, along with some weapon balances there. And also we know a new dungeon for Axiom is coming in June, which will also be pretty exciting, along with another weapon. But one of the biggest things here is we're finally getting that collaboration they keep mentioning in June. Now, they didn't mention what this was, but we are getting it in June, so that is a pretty exciting thing. Now, there is also one other thing in here that we haven't talked about, but kind of segues us into our next section, and that is those Onslaught updates. Now, what these Onslaught updates are is they said Onslaught's not going to be a one and done deal. They're actually going to continuously update it and add more content to it. So expect in June and July for us to get a lot more content into Onslaught, and they said even beyond that, they'll keep working on it because they want this to be one of the modes they continuously work on as it is part of their endgame cycle. Now, outside of them saying that they're going to continuously update Onslaught, we actually got a lot more information on it, including things that they're changing from the beta, with the thing I'm sure most people are interested in, the rewards, since this was the biggest complaint about the beta was the rewards didn't feel that great. So they are updating the rewards. So it sounds like on top of what we were getting in the beta, we'll also be getting a new weekly reward for Ancestor modules, which it's not just like the other modes of Ancestor modules, because the higher difficulty you go, the better those Ancestor modules you get are going to be. So on difficulty 1, you're guaranteed, I believe, a rare stat. On difficulty 2, you're guaranteed one of your rolls to be least ultimate tier. And if you do the highest current tier, which is 3, you're guaranteed at least 2 ultimate tier rolls on your Ancestor module. Now, unfortunately, you can only get 4 of these a week guaranteed, but as it looks like you probably also get Ancestor modules as a random drop, similar to the Infiltration Axion support, I am kind of curious if maybe those random drop ones also might give guaranteed ultimate tiers. They didn't talk about this, but it's one of those things I'm curious about, and we'll see in a few days when this patch comes out. But I doubt that's the case. Now, other changes they increased the amount of commanders. So those bosses that you saw spawn in waves, the one that spawned the giant cube and so on and so forth, or the one that constantly silenced you, we'll be getting 3 new commanders. So now you'll have, instead of just facing those 2 every single time, you'll have a rotation of 5, which will be kind of nice. And on top of that, another change with bosses is the Colossi at the end. So, as most people know, after you completed the 3rd map, you went to a 4th map that was Colossi Arena and you fought him there. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore. Instead, the Colossi is just going to spawn on the 3rd map, where you already have all your defensives set up, so you just fight him there instead. I am a little bit worried about this, because most of the Colossi don't seem to be designed around having large buildings or anything obstructing their view. So I'm wondering, while this will be cool cinematically, I am wondering if maybe they might have to rework some of the Colossi a little bit to be able to better interact with terrain. Because all the terrain they interact with in their arenas and, Colossi fights, they usually just walk through and destroy. So I'm not sure how this interaction is going to work. I don't think this is a big worry right now, but I do think one day in the future, they will have to think about updating Colossi to better interact with terrain and maps. So maybe overhaul for Colossi should be something they should look into in the future. Now, since we just mentioned turrets have also been improved. So all the turrets are better. And some of the turrets now also have a slight taunt, so they'll pull more aggro to help with that. Another system that was improved was the resource system, so what you use to buy turrets. They said you'll be able to get more of that currency more easily. There'll be better rewards for that through doing the little side quests that sometimes pop up. And some of the enemies will drop more. You also will have more things to use that resource on. So one of the things you can now do is call what they said was a bombardment. So that will be kind of interesting to see. Depending on how much damage it does, can make it really useless or really useful. Also depends on the cost. I think this is a cool thing that they will add, but I don't know how much anyone will use it beyond the first or second time. Or my other worry is that it will be so good, you will just not spend anything on turrets, and instead only save up for the bombardments, and it'll just be able to potentially wipe out a wave. Or like I said, the flip side could be it does no damage and has no utility, so no one uses it. Once they didn't show this, so once again, we'll see this when it comes out. Outside of that, they also now have a new buff in this game mode, where you have increased MP recovery. Now, they say this was a help because some Descendants were running to MP issues. And this is kind of a note mainly to the devs. Devs, you need to be careful about giving us buffs in an in-game mode, because while you won't technically be lowering any of the difficulty the enemies have, by over-buffing Descendants, you do technically make the game mode easier. It also kind of is one of those things that a lot of people could just fix by updating their builds, you know, give up some damage for better MP recovery, or make players have to be more cognizant of MP orbs on the ground. But this isn't a bad buff, I'm not against this. It's just I could very easily see this as a slippery slope where you say, oh, well, MP recovery is improved. Okay, next we increase their damage. Okay, next we increase their HP. And at that point, you're just making the mode too easy by buffing the Descendants instead of, you know, weakening the enemies. I think this buff is fine, but I would say don't add any more. I think right now the difficulty for Onslaught is pretty much perfect. It's not impossible difficulty, but it's not so easy I can just ignore all the enemies. I think right now you just want to keep it about this level. So just the buffs just need to be careful. Like I said, this one's fine, just not too many more than this. And now speaking of buffs, the other thing that got expanded was the card system. So we knew before the Onslaught beta that they were going to add a lot more cards, so they're going to be adding that. But on top of that, we are also getting card tiers. So I'll throw it up on the screen there. You guys can see there's tier 1, 2, and 3, and it increases how much the cards give you. This is kind of a cool thing where it will make you stronger some matches, but not strong other matches. I think since this is an inconsistent power increase, I think this kind of thing is fine. Because it just makes it so some maps you feel like you're the strongest person in the world because you got all gold cards, and other times you feel a lot weaker because you got maybe just normal cards. I think because this kind of makes the difficulty a little bit more flexible, it's fine. It still keeps people on their toes. The big thing with the increased difficulty is you really want to keep people aware and on their toes of what's happening. Like, if the game gets too easy, people just kind of autopilot. So something like this that kind of flexes the difficulty because of how rare your cards are is fine. And that's pretty much it for Onslaught. Lots of cool things here. I'm very excited for Onslaught. It feels like since this one disappeared, it's kind of had like something's been missing while I've been playing versus Descendant. So I'm very excited for this mode to come back. But this isn't the only game mode we're getting this patch. We're actually getting 2 more game modes. With the first one of these new game modes being what I'd call kind of a semi-endgame mode called Bounty Operations. Now the reason why I'm calling it semi-endgame is because I think endgame will, or at least true endgame will be about the level of Onslaught level 3 or higher. And they said this one will be about Onslaught level 2 difficulty. Meaning it will have some level of difficulty, but you probably won't either need super optimal builds if you're running a team, or if you're solo, you probably just need super optimal build, but you might not need teammates, similar to Onslaught level 2. So, what is this game mode? Well, apparently in this game mode, There will be a boss that changes based on the day that you're fighting everything, as you guys can see on the screen there. So, for example, one boss might be there Monday, Wednesday, Sunday, another one Tuesday, Saturday, Thursday, so on and so forth. And you go and select this boss, and apparently you just have to hunt him down throughout a map and chase him down as he's fleeing away from you and go defeat him. And once you defeat him, that's the end of the game mode. And it seems like the reward for this will be kind of similar to breach tracking. You bring in a key that you get from a different mode. In this case, you'll need what's called a biochip. And you'll get this from Onslaught and support infiltration Axiom dungeons. And then use this and you'll get a big cash out. Seems like the larger cash outs are pretty generous with, I mean, this is only 5%, but still 1,000 superconductive cooling unit is a large amount. And you also can get a lot of trigger modules from this, it looks like. So this mode, they didn't show any gameplay or anything, but sounds fairly interesting. It also looks like you're limited on the Descendants that you can play, depending on the boss. So for example, you guys can see on the screen there, it says the deployable Descendants are only Freyna, Keelan, and Harris. I imagine this will be similar with all the bosses. You'll probably be limited on which ones you can select, making this a somewhat interesting game mode where you probably have to have every Descendant, well, not every Descendant built, but every element have a Descendant built. So we'll see how this one goes. Once again, they didn't show much about this, they just kind of talked about this, but it is coming in this coming patch. And the last game mode they talked about was something they're calling sub-content. They really weren't clear on what sub-content is. That's what they're quantifying this as. Basically, it will be a new randomly encountered mission in Axiom Plains, similar to one where the meteor's falling out of the sky. This one will also be another mining one, where you'll just have to fight some Vulgus. They really didn't go too in depth into this one, so just expect to see randomly new events in Axiom while you're there. Probably just, waiting for Wall Crasher. Now, on top of all three of these modes, there's also something else they introduced that relates to all these modes and every mode in the game, and that's called Arche Activity. Now, you guys may have seen this in some of the menus that said required Arche Activity. Now, what is this? This is basically a score that totals together all of your build, including your weapons, your Descendants, your modules, your Arche levels, so on and so forth, and puts a number value on it. And this determines basically if you're ready for this game mode. And you need to be equal or higher to the required Arche activity to be able to enter into that mode. Now, they didn't talk about how much this is actually scored up, nor do I know how relative most builds will be towards this. We'll see when this actually comes out. But this is to stop players who aren't ready for a game mode entering into it, which makes a lot of sense. You don't want, with, for example, Onslaught level 3, someone who's not ready to go into Onslaught level 3. If, for example, an Onslaught beta, I saw literally a level 1 bunny enter into Onslaught level 3, and they were down 90% of the time. Yeah, obviously, if you're a player like that, it's not going to be fun for you because you're not really getting to play the game, you're just playing Revive Me Simulator. You're feeling like you're just getting launched against unfair enemies who are just too strong for you and you can't damage. So it doesn't feel fun that way, and it also doesn't feel fun for the players who get stuck with the person who has an underdeveloped build, because then they're also frustrated because they're having to carry their team harder than what they would expect, and it makes the game mode much more annoying and frustrating. And so this is a good way to reduce player frustration, since it'll prevent players who aren't ready for a game mode entering in, and will make it fun for players who are already ready for it, because then they don't have to deal with having to carry someone who's underprepared. So overall, I think this is actually a pretty good thing, as long as the numbers are tuned correctly. They may have to adjust these numbers somewhat after it comes out. We'll see though after it gets actually released. Now, outside of the game modes, the next big thing in this patch is obviously the characters, with the highlight being Ultimate Esiemo. Now, they talked a lot about Ultimate Esiemo here, so some fun things. His base kit will be improved, as they usually do whenever an Ultimate character comes out. He will also get a story, well, his own personal story, similar to every other Ultimate Descendant. But something cool about the story is you can get some of his ultimate blueprints from his story. So there's more motivation to do his story this time outside of They'll probably also include some cosmetics like usual, but getting the blueprints might make it easier for you to unlock him. And then similar to also every other Descendant, he's also getting 2 new skill modules along with his ultimate. Now, the first one of these, which is called Rampaging Mad Bomber, it self-buffs scales off shields, which anything that scales off shields is typically not that great, and is a melee build. And I gotta say, you guys can see the gameplay right there. This looks disappointing. Now, I will say I don't trust any of the developers' builds. Often enough, their builds are utter garbage and very much lack the damage the build's actually capable of. So we can't fully tell until I get my hands on this module if it's actually good or bad. But it looks like they're struggling with Legion Laboratory in this gameplay, and that just makes me think this module is not going to be good unless they hyper buff its damage. Like, there's too much setup for how much damage it does, and it doesn't even look like it's doing that great damage. So I don't think this one's going to be very good just from what I can see in the gameplay here. But once again, we'll have to wait until I actually get my hands on it. Now, his other one, though, which is called Explosion Maestro, looks insanely fun. This one, I don't even care if it's actually good or bad, it just looks like fun. Not only does it a buffing one, but it is a crit one, and you can infinitely, well, maybe not infinitely, but you can stack your bombs. I think there is a maximum stack count of like 100, but oh my god, it just looks fun. This is basically, this transient module is what I imagine a Mezio is. A goofy build that's fun, lots of explosions. It just embodies like everything they've shown of a Mezio in like all the cinematics and all their little like trailers and everything. It just looks like so much fun. This is the one I really want to try. It just seems fun. Like, once again, even if it's weak, it just looks like it's a fun one that you'd want to run either way. So I am very excited to try this one. It honestly does look like it'll be good. So we'll have to see, but yeah, I'm excited for Explosion Maestro. Rampaging Mad Bomber. We'll see with that one. And while honestly the Ultimate Mezio launch seems kind of like a mixed bag, the thing that's really exciting, and I'm super hyped for, you guys might be able to tell by my voice, is the Valby Rework. Oh my god, this looks so good. They basically did everything the community wanted to be reworked about Valby. They did. She's now completely fusion. Her first ability bounces. Her second ability now has a toe effect, which everyone wanted to be returned to her kit, and now is. And her third ability, the one where it used to be basically animation locked, you couldn't really do anything while you were riding your wave, and just kind of, spreading water around, you can finally use all your other abilities during it. This was the biggest complaint about Valby, was that one of her major abilities prevented you from using any other abilities. Now you can surf around on the water while using your other abilities, and it looks so good. I am so excited for this. And not only is she getting this part of her rework, 3 of her modules are also getting reworked. So now, Spiral Tidal Wave is going to be her skill crit build, since they removed it from Supply Moisture. We'll get into that one in a second. Then Singing Water got changed to where now her 4th ability brings out a giant gun. They're saying this one's meant to be like single target. And then her 3rd one is Supply Moisture. Now, Supply Moisture is now going to be focused on Firearm. This one kind of reminds me of VS's. So it's going to be kind of like a skill power-esque one. So this one actually looks like it should be pretty good. And yeah, this looks just amazing. I think she's going to be the highlight of the patch. I'm sure you'll walk into an Onslaught and you'll probably see like 3 Valbys. She just looks like fun. They just did a great job with her. Valby was already a great character. Like, enjoyment-wise, she was kind of weak, but she was enjoyable to play. But now they fixed all the things that made her kind of clunky, I guess. And she just looks like so much fun. I'm so excited for this one. Now, Valby's not the only one who's going to actually get some new stuff. Ines is also going to get her 2 new transient modules, along with one being reworked. So the first one is Plasma Condensation. And this one looks pretty cool. Basically, it's a stacking one, where you can use your first ability, stack plasma stacks, I guess you could call them, on a target, and then you use, it looked like your second ability to call down a lightning strike, and that would proc all the stacks to do a whole bunch of damage. They said this will be more of like a single target one, but I could kind of see the playstyle where you use your fourth ability to clear out trash mobs, and then use this to kind of just focus down elites or bosses. A lot of this will depend on the damage. The next one is Plasma Bullet. Now, this one is meant to be an ability / gun use one, and it's supposed to scale for MP. It looks like it should be fun. Once again, this, similar to Valby's, this one also kind of reminds me of Viesa's. So we'll see how this one goes. And then Plasma Ball got changed. This is supposed to be her close range build. I think this one looks kind of underwhelming, to be honest. I still don't think anyone will use this one, but it does look better than the last one. So on top of all the new stuff with characters, we also got some new weapons and some reworked weapons. So the first new weapon that we're gonna have is our Battle Pass weapon, which is Frenzy Locomotive Gun. Now this one's pretty unique in the fact that it doesn't actually consume ammo. It has a heat mechanic similar to, you know, some other games. I'm sure everyone's seen the heat mechanic. As you shoot, it fills up the heat gauge, and once it hit max, you can no longer shoot. They didn't go super in depth with how this one's gonna work overall, if it's gonna get more damage or not. But I am curious about this one because there are some abilities that need to consume ammo to work. So I'm wondering how that's gonna function with this, if those aren't gonna work, or if, for example, something like Viesa, who consumes ammo for her ability, if it just won't lower the count for her frost bullet. There might be some interesting interactions with this. Now we also got another new gun called Whirlwind, and this one looks pretty good. It's a tactical rifle that does AoE damage, that also in its AoE buffs allies to give them increased movement speed while slowing enemies, which seems pretty good. And they were saying this will be useful for Onslaught, which I do agree on. Being able to slow enemies in Onslaught is a very nice thing. Allows you to manage the waves a lot better. But also because this does AoE damage, I think this might be really good on characters like Serena. So she has even more AoE since she tends to synergize really well with these types of weapons. I imagine this will also be probably pretty decent on someone like Ajax as well, depending how much damage it does. But I feel like it'll be pretty good on a lot of these Descendants. Now, like I said, on top of these new weapons, we're also going to be getting reworked weapons, and that's going to be Voltia and during Legacy. Voltia, they said they're not really changing too much. They're basically just going to improve what's already there. They won't be getting a rework, just more of an improvement. And during Legacy, though, we'll be getting a rework for its unique mechanic. They said how this is going to work is the more you fire, the slower the fire rate's going to be, but it's going to do increased damage. I don't know how I feel about this, because most of the time the general rule of thumb for Descendant is you want to shoot fast. While some Descendant's abilities do have like slight internal cooldowns, generally you just want to be able to shoot faster rather than slower. So this damage increase is going to have to be massive. They also said that it still will shred resistance, and will have some kind of like small little explosion that shoots out. I am excited for Enduring Legacy Rework because this was my favorite ultimate weapon when the game launched. So I will be excited to see it become good again, potentially. But we'll see if it actually is. Next up is something that kind of surprised me. The Hoverbikes will be getting an improvement here. They'll now go up to level 20, and you'll get a little skill tree similar to Inversion Reinforcement that you'll be able to use to just kind of improve your bike overall. Unfortunately, there's not much use for bikes, so I'm hoping this is a change they're doing in prep for future content where maybe bikes will be more needed. But currently, I don't think this will serve too much use other than making the bikes a little bit better. And next, let's go over one of the other big things they mentioned about this patch, and that is they are reworking the farming loop. Now, the reason that they are doing this is to mainly help new and returning players figure out what they're supposed to do. Basically, if it's a new player, they want to help them get from starting the game all the way to endgame, and so they have a clear path. They want to do this because, well, for a game to be healthy, you do need a good influx of returning and new players, which makes sense. They're already working on giving us a solid endgame for veteran players, so they also do need to work on things for new and returning players. You kind of want to work on both of them so you have a nice healthy game. So I do agree that this is a good thing they're working on. Now, how are they doing this? Well, the first step of this is that they're reworking patterns. Yep, all those things you get your blueprints from are being reworked. So the way that they're reworking them is instead of them being something numbered that's kind of confusing, since you have, a pattern like 69, 87, 51, they want to make that way more clear, since you don't really know what's actually in those patterns unless you do a little bit of deep diving on it. They're changing it to be something more basic, to be something like pattern Harris, pattern Dia, pattern Thunder Cage, where it'll have all the parts for Thunder Cage, for example, in that one Thunder Cage pattern. This makes it a lot more simplistic and easier for people to understand, and they won't get lost whilst trying to search for that one part that they really need. I think this is a good system. This makes it a lot more simplistic, and will make it easier for people to figure out how to get that one character weapon they really want. Now, they also said because they're doing it this way, all the farming locations will be redone, since before, some characters are split up across several locations. Now there'll be, sounds like one or maybe a couple locations, and the patterns will all have to be redone since, well, none of the old patterns will exist anymore. Also, as a side note, if you still own old patterns, they will still be in your inventory, you just will not be able to farm out new ones. Though I would recommend using those old patterns sooner rather than later, because even though while they will exist in your inventory for now, there is the potential that in the future they might, disappear. So, use them sooner rather than later is my advice. But at least after this patch, they will still be in your inventory. Now, I don't mind them redoing all this, so them redoing all this pattern is actually pretty good. In fact, even with them changing locations, it won't actually affect anyone, because if you already have all the parts, well, you don't really need to go to those locations to farm them anyways, unless you want a duplicate weapon. So you won't really care that those are getting changed. And if you're a new player who hasn't farmed the locations, well, you don't have the locations yet, so you don't really care because you didn't even know the old locations. So this doesn't actually change anything. Now, the other change they did for the patterns is, within the patterns you'll have, similar to how it is now, there'll be 5 items. Instead of them being all different percentages, they'll all be 20%. So you have an even chance to get any of the items in it. And on top of that, they're also adding a new pity system to the patterns. So every time you open a pattern, you'll have this little progress bar, and it will increase that progress bar every time you open a pattern from 0 to 100. Once it gets to 100%, you get to free select one of the blueprints in your next pattern. For example, if you are farming out Dia, let's say, and you have all the Dia parts but Dia code, and you've run through 20 patterns. We don't actually know how many patterns it will take, but we'll just say it takes 20. You run through 20 patterns, and your pity bar is now full. Well, that 21st one that you open up, you'll get to select the Dia code out of the whole batch, instead of having it be randomized. This is really good. This is a good pity system. It'll definitely help with any kind of frustration. These kind of pity systems are always pretty nice, because even if you are failing the RNG checks, you still are making some kind of progression towards a guaranteed cash out of what you want, which feels a lot better as a player, because it feels a lot better to make progression than have it be RNG. Also, if people are wondering, well, if they're all 20%, what about my shape stabilizers that have just been slowly piling up? Those will still be in the game and usable in the pity system. So instead of changing the percentages, instead it will now increase your pity system bar. So for example, if let's just say you're at 50% pity system, if you use a shape stabilizer, it will bring you up to 60% or maybe 70%. They didn't give us exact percentages, but this is just an example. So if you just want the part right away, let's just say each shape stabilizer gives you 20%, you just throw on 5 shape stabilizers, get that pity bar to 100%, and just select the part you need. Overall, I think this is a much better system than was previously there, and will be really good for any new players. And depending on how they use this for new Descendants and new weapons, it'll also be a good system for veteran players too. If, let's just say, the next weapon gets a pattern instead of, having to be a random drop from the boss. I think pretty good system. I like this one a lot. So on top of the farming loop for patterns being improved, we're also getting improvement to the reactor farming loop. Now this one I'm more mixed opinion on compared to the pattern one, which I really liked. So how this one's going to work is while you're in 400%, which is something that personally I do a lot while farming for crystallization catalysts. When you're running through, you will only get reactor drops for the current Descendant you are playing. For example, we talked about how Valby is going to be a fusion only character after this patch. So if you're running through 400% with the new Valby, the only reactors that will drop will be fusion non-attribute reactors, since Valby will be a fusion non-attribute character. Which, this is really good if you're currently farming for a reactor for a character that's already out. Or a character that you already have built. But if you want to just casually be able to farm for a reactor while doing 400%, so let's just say Freyna, who's my personal choice to run through, you will not be able to just randomly get the reactor for another character or build that you're planning. Or for a future character that's going to come out, let's say a fire tech character is coming out, and so you set up your whole reactor filter system to go for that one reactor, and you're just kind of hoping for that drop while you're running through 400% so that you can get your ETA 0 currency and crystallization catalysts, since also 400% is just honestly one of the better places to farm reactors. You unfortunately will not be able to get it while running through with Freyna, or Valby in this case, because we're looking for a fire tech. So it does make it harder in this one instance, and there's a few other instances where it does make it a little more difficult to get your reactor that you want. So I don't mind this system, but I'd like the option to be able to turn off this option. If it was a toggleable option where I could turn it on and off, I think this is a great change. How it is, I'm very mixed on it. Also for this patch, we'll be rotating Abyssals, so Defiler will be coming back, and I gotta say Defiler has an amazing skin. If you guys missed it, make sure to pick these ones up. They look really, really good. They kind of have that Spartan-esque look to them. Really, really good. Also, they will be doubling the cap for tickets for ETA 0 Abyssal tickets from 1,500 to 3,000. This will be really good if you can only farm during the week and you want to stock up and then do the cash out during the weekend. Overall, these are really good changes. We will also be getting 3 new trigger modules this patch, with one focused on Amezio, one focused on Valby, and one focused on Ines. We'll see if these are actually better than the current ones once we actually get them in game. There's also going to be a lot of good quality of life improvements. Now the ones on screen right now are only a few, but just to quickly go over these, the save build feature will allow you to save a build from a Descendant that you're currently viewing in game. Preset change to your mission countdown, those 10 seconds during the start of a mission, you can change your build with a different preset then. Recommended mutant cell display will just be a way to recommend what the game thinks is the best mutant cell for you. I don't think that one actually will work too well. PC will be able to press F1 instead of holding it for the information menu. This is a really good change. Just makes it a little bit faster. You can now open patterns in your inventory, and then you'll get some kind of alert when you're about to go into a mission that your research is about to finish, and then DLSS 4.5 support will be implemented. And of course, with this being a new episode, we're also going to get a new battle pass. This one, the cosmetics overall look pretty good. I really like the skin that they added there. The jacket and mask combo looks really good. I especially like it because, as you guys maybe will see in game right there, the flames kind of glow a little bit, at least the edges do. I think this overall looks really good. I'm excited for this battle pass, but we're also getting other cosmetics as well. With those new cosmetics being 2 new skin lines, we'll also be getting a unique skin for Nell and Amezio, But the first skin line that we're going to get, and this is going to be on patch, is going to be the Goddess skin line. I think overall this one looks really good. Though I do think there is a slight missed opportunity here that Valby is getting her rework, and they didn't give her a Goddess of Water skin. I feel like this would have made so much sense. Like, they gave Freyna the Goddess of Death, but they didn't give Valby the Goddess of Waters. Just such a missed opportunity. But these ones overall look pretty good. I think these ones will go really well. Especially like the Serena one. But the one I am most interested in is the skin line that's getting updated on June 4th. This military skin line just looks so freaking good. I'm just gonna pick up that bundle day one. The Goddess skin line, yeah, looks really good. But that, I don't know, that military skin line just looks so much better in my opinion. I am super excited for that one. Now, we actually didn't get to see all the military skins in-game. They said they tweeted all that stuff out later. But yeah, these are the skins that we'll be getting this patch, along with a few emotes and other small cosmetics to go along with these skin lines. And lastly, they also talked about some events that are going on. These are going to be your pretty typical events we've had during the past. We'll have Accelerate Research, some login events, and also an event to help you if you're building weapons. Looks like you get some cosmetics from that. They didn't go too in depth on any of these events, but they will be occurring and we'll find them in the patch notes. But like I said, they're pretty much all the same typical events we get every patch. And that's going to go ahead and wrap up for this video. Now there was a lot of cool things shown off in this dev video that are coming up in this patch. Ultimate Esiemo, Valby Rework, Ines module, new weapons, game modes, skins, and a whole lot more. I'm really excited for this patch. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun. But let me know what you guys think about everything that was announced in the comments down below. And also what you really liked about the video, or what you didn't like maybe. Let me know down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, if you could hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. It helps out the video a lot. And if you want to know when new videos are going to come out, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. With this new patch coming out, I'm going to be doing a lot of videos and a lot of build videos. So if you guys want to be notified when that happens, subscribing will help you get notified with that. And also, I do stream most days on Twitch. I'll go ahead and throw up all the information on the screen there. With the new patch coming out, we're going to be doing a lot of Onslaught over there. So it'll be a lot of fun. And finally, once again, if you guys could just hit that like button, I really would appreciate it. It does help the video get out to a lot more people. And that will go ahead and wrap it up for this video. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll catch y'all again next time.